are recording with Dr. Robert Malone and Mr. Mikki Willis, both fellow Illuminati members. We are in Skull and Bones. We are behind the Great Reset. Dr. Malone's been on here a million times before. His book, obviously, over his shoulder. Lies My Government Told Me, and in the description will be his Getter, Twitter, Substack, all the good stuff. And Mr. Willis, who I have not spoken to before, I was actually turned on to by Dr. Malone. I think about a month and a half ago, you sent me a video called Our Birthright, which will also be in the description. And it is a preview of really kind of encapsulating your work, Mikki. And it stuck with me because the way you laid it out so perfectly. You said all these movements, Occupy Wall Street, the truckers in Canada, they get so close to the finish line, and then they all fall apart in the same manner. It's not that they all just fall apart in the same manner, and it's infighting. And anyone who has taken a middle school history class should point to immediately COINTELPRO from the FBI in the 60s and 70s, and how that's always the same trademark. Could you maybe comment on that?
Yeah, a lot of it is internally through our corrupt agencies that get the ball rolling. But I'll have to say that through my investigations, another great portion of it is simply done through the paranoia of the people. People, either through just pure paranoia or the fact that once something starts to get solved, the problem that starts to get solved, and people start to lose their importance, because a lot of people that don't have power kind of rise to this newly found power because they're suddenly truth tellers and they're making a difference and all of that. And once things start to get solved and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, there's a really bizarre tendency for a lot of people to then start their own fires and do that internally. And so there's a lot of reasons for it, but it's absolutely a problem that I've witnessed through the decades.
Dr. Malone?
Well, I don't have the experience of Mikki, and I'm very grateful for his counsel when he shares it with me. I don't always follow it, but I always listen to it carefully. There's no question that we have seen the rise of splintering within whatever you want to call this embryonic movement. My wife hates the term movement because of the relationship to the gastrointestinal tract. But whatever we want to call it, there has been, we went through a period of amazing cohesion and growth, and then a period of fragmentation. And there absolutely were, and still are, I believe, identified actors that are promoting that. Brownstone just recently smoked out another one that was a retired Army captain that has been very active on Twitter for a number of years now, and apparently is tied through a subcontract to the Department of Defense. And this person has been attacking anybody who has been speaking out against the official narrative concerning vaccines and the government's response to the COVID crisis. So these intentional paid actors who sow division and act to disrupt are out there. And I completely concur with Mikki. There's some other very odd organic process that happens with humans. In some cases, it has a component of jealousy, or in others, attention-seeking behavior. It's can be extremely counterproductive, and there are individuals who have been actively involved in this and have taken enormous amounts of pressure from others in their group about what they've been doing. They've been defunded, forced out of organizations, et cetera, for their behavior, and yet they still persist. So whatever it is, there's some force psychologically that's very strongly reinforcing. And it seems to be somewhat similar to a diagnosis of that I've that exists. There are those who are oppositionally defiant. Basically anybody that they perceive as pushing in certain ways, they have a reactive defiance to. I don't really understand what is the basis for much of this, but there's no question it occurs, and it is very much a human phenomena, as Mikki is pointing out. It's not only threats from without, but also threats from within. Over.
Mikki, real quick, how old are you?
55.
So you're 55. Dr. Malone's 64. So what's that? That's what's what 109, and then I'm 32. So that's 141 years between us, and we all smiled at the joke about movements and poop. So I just wanted to put that out there for levity. Is those jokes will never get old. What you said, Dr. Malone,
with Jill, because there is a need to move all of the fecal matter out of our systems, and so
sure.
I think movement is pretty appropriate.
Beautiful. Well, and then what Dr. Malone said is, and what you said as well, Mikki, is it's not always a top down, corporate, deep state, whatever, state actors, although they do exist. Is there also is the human phenomena of paranoia, and also, and I can speak from it myself, let he who's without sin cast the first stone. Jealousy. I think Dr. Malone first came on here, episode 495, July 2021. You came on here a couple times. Dr. McCullough came on here a couple times. My baby, my podcast that I built from a laptop above my parents' garage, banned from YouTube for it. I don't regret it. And then when you both went on Joe Rogan, I had this huge pang of jealousy. I was like, everyone's giving him credit. Of course, my own ego getting in the way. But eventually I had to stop and examine it. I'm like, what do you really care about more? Do you actually stand by what you say? You want to get the message out there and fight censorship? Or is this about Tommy? And there's that tough moment where you go, yeah, I'm really jealous. I'm really jealous that he's getting up. And you examine that, you sit with it, and then you move forward. So that's also just from my own experiences, as I can speak from that. Jealousy is a huge, I got the story out, I'm the one that broke it. Yeah, that's a human thing. But it's also,
add something to that, Tommy?
Yes, sir.
This is a relay race. And so in a relay race, you pass the baton to the runner in front of you, and one runner out of all the runners that pass the baton gets to actually cross the finish line.
Beautiful.
They get the accolades of winning the race, but it's a relay race. And so when there's a lot of things that I put out in the world that I see other people take credit for, and it really matters nothing to me, because I passed the baton, planted a seed, opened up a conversation, and now somebody's taken it out further and wider than I could ever do. And when we keep our focus on really what the big game is, and not the egoic, necessity to hoard and be acknowledged, and we realize as long as we're fighting the same fight together, we're running the same race together, we all win. And that's one of the reasons I actually made that video. It was inspired by my friend Robert Malone here on this podcast with us, because I saw that he was being attacked from all angles. And perfect? No, he's not. Just like myself, we're all perfectly imperfect. But controlled opposition, that's something I will bet everything I have on that's not the case. And so when I started seeing people say this, it didn't surprise me, because when you have the person who was one of, or the inventor of the technology that's being used to do the damage that's now happening in our world actually come forward, how many formulators and people that are involved in really deadly pharmaceuticals out there that never step forward because they're just afraid of the loss of their life or losing their status or their job or whatever it might be. And this man took a massive leap in the name of humanity and faced all the backlash of suddenly being, someone that could be on the, on the list for a Nobel Prize, to suddenly be a quack and a crazy man and smeared and taking all those arrows. And yet, instead of just holding the gratitude for that move, you then have these people who will then start to flip that around, and suddenly, because of a mistake or something that someone said, or just suspicion starts to flow, or the fact that he still calls it a vaccine and people don't agree with that, or that he worked for BARDA and people mistook that for DARPA, and all these misunderstandings, instead of sitting down and speaking and understanding that there's a bigger picture here. And that is for us to look very clearly. And the one question I ask is a lot of people within this movement, sorry, Jill, that that I disagree with, but I have to stop first, because I'm often asked to expose people because I have a large reach with media, and we can certainly go up against a lot of the false narratives. But the first thing I do is I look at the character themselves. I look at their history. And usually, yeah, there is really something here disturbing about the way this person handles themselves, or they're just a grifter and they're making money off of the situation, whatever it might be. But are they making more progress than they're doing damage? I have to ask that question. And if they are, then I leave them alone, because they're as long as we're moving in the right direction, then they are an ally. And let's give them a shot too. I've had some conversations with some of these difficult people, and some of them have just stopped doing what they're doing. And they've even gone out on major, outlets like InfoWars and other locations and made public apologies, because we took the time to stop and say, let's talk about this for a moment. You can disagree with this person's science, but why are you out there smearing them? Do you know you're doing damage counterproductive to the very thing you think you're fighting for? And so we need to wisen up when it comes to that. And we need to really, I think, reality TV and all this gossip, tabloids and crap have just wired people in such a way that they don't stop to really consider that there's a human life at the other end of that. And even if they're imperfect and saying things that you disagree with, how do you approach that in such a way that we don't just create more fires as we're trying to put out the ones that are burning up our lives right now?
Dr. Malone.
I love the comment about gossip, because I see there is absolutely a core component here. And in the internet age, that we have some dynamics going on in social media that exploit this tendency of humans to want to gossip about stuff. I mean, this is a universal in terms of human behavior. And everybody wants to rubberneck at the car wreck. The other day I driving up north to Culpeper, and some old guy had rolled a Viper. It was all covered with mud, and I hope everybody was okay. But I mean, you couldn't not rubberneck. What are you going to do? We all love to gossip. The other thing that I wanted to mention, that Mikki, I was surprised with all his expertise and experience, he hadn't mentioned, and I only became aware of after this brilliant piece that he put out, and that is the term bad jacketing. So it turns out that this tendency of humans to do this actually has a name that's attached to it, a slang name for this process, and you can look it up. It's long been known, and apparently bad jacketing is absolutely a psyops warfare conflict approach that's been used historically by the FBI, promoting this idea that someone is surreptitiously working for the enemy. And it's exceedingly insidious. People, it creates an environment in which no one can be confident of anyone. Once this, it's like a virus. Once this accusation gets thrown out, I like to say, it's like being asked the question, "Have you stopped beating your wife?"
Yeah.
There's no right answer there. No matter what you say, you lose. Anything you say is confirmation in those that are so biased in that direction. If I say, "Well, no, I'm not a CIA agent," well, that's exactly what a CIA agent would say.
Yeah.
And there's just no way out.
There's not. Yeah. There is no way out of that. And I think you just kind of need to almost lean into it. right? Just completely discard, if you stop beating your wife, just say no and move on, just
Well, I think it might have been Mikki that counseled me. Certainly I got counseling from someone that the best way to handle this kind of stuff is with humor.
Yeah.
So when a lot of these accusations were flying around me much thicker, and I went into the last of the Ron Johnson testimonies on the Hill in the Senate, and was sitting around with a group, and we were all introducing themselves. I introduced myself initially as a CIA operative that was surreptitiously infiltrating this meeting, and I was absolutely controlled opposition. And then I flipped it, but it got exactly it really dropped the tension in the whole room.
Yeah.
It very effective using humor to counter this in a way that doesn't require that you reciprocate. I mean, it's so easy. I once took a course on the magic of conflict, in which it was pointed out that when you push somebody else, push somebody else, they're going to push back, and you end up doing this, right? If there's this normal instinctual response when somebody hits you, to hit them back in the nose, and that generally doesn't go anywhere good. But humor does seem to be among the more effective of the relatively bad options that you're confronted with when this stuff gets floating.
One thing I want to say too is that while a lot of this is just generated through public immaturity, it's also a very real thing. There was just I believe it was Denver, Colorado, that a person who was a kind of an organizer of a bunch of stuff that happened in the Colorado area. He drove a hearse. I just heard this story, so I don't know great detail about it, but it was just found out that this person was a paid informant, an FBI informant, and was instigating a lot of trouble, and he was a real character. And so you would look at somebody like that and think, this guy drives a hearse around town. He's kind of an old hippie. This is the last guy that you would think is a FBI informant. And sure enough, he was. And so we really don't know. And I think that's where the paranoia comes from. It's kind of deserved in some way. But how I look at it is, look, I don't do anything illegal. I keep very clean. I pay my taxes begrudgingly, but I pay them, and a lot more than I should. And anything that is spoken about on through text or what apps or whatever that, people reach out to me, say, can you hook me up with somebody who can give me a counterfeit voucher that I've been vaccinated because I have to travel or whatever. I just say, no, I don't do that. I don't anything like that could be a potential trap or could look bad later if my phone ends up in the wrong hands. I just make it really clear. I don't engage in anything like that. I'd love to help you and I wish you the best, but I can't even have a tiny infraction of anything illegal. And that way, at least I know that what I'm saying, even if I'm dealing with people that are infiltrators or informers around me, they don't have anything on me.
Yeah.
You have to make it up, and they will do that too.
Yeah, they absolutely will. Yeah, I'm friends with some former Delta Force guys, CIA guys, and they've said to me, and not as many words to whoever you talk to, like doing the podcast and the people I talk to, they're like, just whatever conversation you're having off air, are you okay with that being played back to you on a projector in a courtroom? And
Yeah.
I'm just like, and that sucks, right? Because that boxes you in. But at the same time, if you aren't actually doing anything, that's okay. And it makes you, I think it makes you more efficient of an operator, and that's just how you yield, instead of trying to, which lie am I holding up, which facade, which mask do I have, who's this, who's that. And what Mikki, what you just said about the hippie guy, I'm reading a book right now. It's fantastic. I don't know the author. It's called Private Empire. It's about ExxonMobil, and they're talking about this like early Greenpeace kind of staged whatever. They drove up to the gates of wherever the headquarters was, and they came through, and these guys ran out, and they threw fake blood on the security guards and said, this is the blood of the indigenous or whatever, just hippie stuff. And some of them ran up under the roof, and they're throwing a big beach ball painted like the earth around. It was supposed to somehow symbolize global warming. I don't know, it was stupid. But when ExxonMobil, with their limitless resources, went and found how they had raised $125,000 for this. 124,000 was from one donor, and that donor, I believe, was a former or current executive of ExxonMobil. And they went in, or maybe it was BP, regardless. The entire thing was sympathy for the big corporation. These hippies are coming in and assaulting us. And that's like declassified. So it's very real. What else is going on under the surface? Dr. Malone, you're smiling. What are you smiling about?
Oh, this, the false flag.
Yeah.
So let me share another anecdote along these lines. Mikki remembers well the Lincoln Memorial protest to stop the mandates that was 2 Januaries ago. There was the coverage of that in Vanity Fair included the assertion that there were Proud Boys there. Now, I had mentioned a moment ago that I'm aware that there had been a infiltrator disruptor that was active in this area and was active at that time with that protest, and who did attempt to get Proud Boys to attend the meeting. We were not aware to attend that protest. Now, they don't appear to have responded. And at the time, we were not aware that this person had this history of doing this type of activity. But Vanity Fair went ahead and covered it as if there were Proud Boys there and used pictures from January 6th to reinforce their point. That then got picked up by another media outlet that again asserted that based on the Vanity Fair article, there were Proud Boys at that protest. And then recently, Peter Hotez put out an op-ed, peer-reviewed journal. Peter Hotez, the head of tropical medicine at Baylor University, and many, including myself, have asserted that he was being groomed to be Tony Fauci's replacement, a man who's a very strong advocate for vaccines. So he put out an op-ed in a peer-reviewed journal recently in which he asserted that the anti-vaxxer movement is intrinsically anti-Jewish movement, and this is a theme that has been now repeated again and again. This was one of the accusations against Bobby Kennedy at that protest because he mentioned the Holocaust. This was the accusation against a British MP recently because he had cited an Israeli scientist who had said that what was happening with the jabs was worse than the Holocaust. And so Andrew got kicked out of the Conservative Party. The parallelism between anti-vax and anti-Jewish, and citing as part of the basis that the Proud Boys were there at the Lincoln Memorial protest, which was all totally fabricated and then recycled within this hall of mirrors that's modern media. And it appears, my sense is that there is a concerted effort to make this connection, this false connection, because the term anti-vaxxer has lost its potency. When they defined anybody who is against mandates as an anti-vaxxer, then suddenly the plurality or majority of Americans became anti-vaxxers, and they kind of cut themselves off at the knees. But that's what you see is these kind of ecosystems that get set up to create false flags and false narratives and then reinforce them and weaponize them.
On that note, Plandemic 3 is a history lesson on how we got here. And we're featuring the work of a man named G. Edward Griffin, who has been warning the United States and the world since the 60s of what was coming. And a lot of his work is taken straight from the communist manifestos and writings and promises that they made way back when of what they're going to do, which is now fully activated here right in front of us. And part of that, one of the chapters included a statement from the socialist/communist movement to all of its followers saying we need to begin to amplify such words as racist and white supremacist and neo-Nazi and anti-Semitic. They give a whole list of words that if we can get these into the modern day lexicon and use them enough, they will literally become landmines such that we can shut down any forward conversations that we don't want to hear. And that's where we are right now. So anything, as we see, it's used all the time, right? It's the man speaks about something that they shouldn't speak about, you're a misogynist. If we say, if you run into a transgender person that you don't like because they're doing something horrible and you say, I don't like that person, well, you're a transphobe now. So you can't have your own opinion without these labels that then become, it's stigmatized in the public arena, such that you can't have a voice in the world anymore. You're not invited to the town square any longer. And so this is all a part of a decades-old agenda to weaponize our language in such a way that we can't speak truth. We can't speak our truth. And there's a reason that in the Bible says in the beginning was the Word, and that the Constitution, the number one, the very first amendment is freedom of speech and expression. It is literally our greatest weapon and tool to advance the forward evolution of our species. And so that's why it is attacked on what we say, everything we say. And we have to counter that by being louder, clearer, and bolder when it comes to speaking the truth. There's a lot of people that are still keeping their lips zipped because they don't want to face the backlash. And this is not the moment to do that, because your silence is literally enabling this plan to overtake your lives and the lives of your children. And so this is the moment for all of us to speak out, which is why I came to the defense of my friend Robert Malone when he was being attacked, and other people that were being attacked, because I knew that this was the work happening right now. It always happens to the people that are making the most impact, the people that are the most prominent voices, that have the prestige because of what they've done, what they've invented, what they've achieved. And those are the ones that are always, suddenly someone steps out of the wood and says they raped me when I was in college, or whatever it is. These people that get paid, or they just seek fame, whatever it might be, are willing to suddenly step forward and slander the history or the character of these people. Take Julian Assange. He's a perfect example of one of the bravest journalists on the planet, who is still in exile, still a political prisoner, and had been accused of rape. And look at all the politicians that are accused of rape, and this is because that's one quick, easy way for all genders and people to go, if this person is guilty of that, or pedophilia or whatever. There's a lot of people truly guilty of pedophilia that are never even being accused of it. But the majority of the people who are against that. And so that's the easiest way to get people to stop listening to that person.
It happened recently with Matt Schlapp, who's one of the founders of CPAC, because he was accused of soliciting a male aide, and there's no witnesses, no documentation, but was very aggressively amplified in the press because of political purposes. I thank you for talking about this, Mikki, that this is absolutely a long-standing trend. I think it's one of the blessings of a 44-year marriage, that where we've been faithful and present with each other. Is it makes it a lot harder. But this is one of the things I was counseled about right out of the box when I started getting attention. Is, you'll notice I get selfies all the time. You will never see a selfie where I don't have both hands visible.
I know.
For exactly this reason.
It's brilliant. I know. And I've volunteered my services to take pictures with you. I will take pictures with the beautiful women. Dr. Malone is not taking me up on that, but the offer's still there. No, but Mikki, what you said, and I know I kept you for 30 minutes and I said I'd let you go. What you said about weaponizing the language is, unfortunately, there's only one way to go to survive it. And it's to just walk through it. I mean, I made a joke earlier about, no, I haven't stopped beating my wife, but really, you're a racist. You just go forward. No, I never address it again. Say, no, I'm not. And then just move forward. You can't get stuck on it. You can't negotiate with terrorists. You don't sit down and show them how you're not. You don't go through your podcast library. And usually the people I've interviewed, you just say, no, I'm not, and you move forward. And it sucks. It's really uncomfortable, but eventually people will see that it doesn't stick. They just he's a misogynist, he's a racist. Just shut up. Just address the argument.
And to the people out there who know these people, like I know Robert Malone. The reason I came to his defense and even did it publicly and privately with a lot of phone calls, there was probably a month-long period, I would say, Robert, right? We were a lot of phone calls happening back and forth, and I was mediating between doctors that were having issues and all of that. One of the reasons I did that is because when I released Plandemic in 2020, I had people that I knew for a long time, some of them 2 decades, and they turned on me, or they didn't defend my character. They know me, they know who I am. And I was really, really shaken by the fact that so many people didn't come out to say, wait a minute, no, this is not who this person is. And he's not a domestic terrorist and all this. I know him. I know his family. I know what kind of father he is, what kind of husband he is. I too have been with my wife for 20 years. And so many people were so afraid of taking the arrows themselves that they didn't stand. And what happened to honor and integrity and loyalty? Like those principles, that is literally what the foundation of a good character. And so I've decided, because I knew how it felt when there was such a lack of people, and I also know how it felt when the few that did come out and defend me, and they got attacked too, but they said, no, I love this person. I call him my brother because of what we've been through together, and I know who he is, and I stand for his character. And even some of them said, I don't necessarily agree with everything in Plandemic. I think vaccines are important, yet I still honor him for speaking what he believes to be true. And it was very fair of them. And I remember the feeling of I'd call these people and say, thank you. Thank you for that. Because I would hope that after, 20, 30-year relationships with people, that they wouldn't listen to the media, something that we know is corrupt and just does nothing but lies. They would listen to fact checkers and then suddenly change their opinion of someone they've known for 20, 25 years. It shows a real shallowness in the human character. And so for the people that are out there, witnessing these good people being smeared, we can disagree with them. I was super forthcoming with both Robert and Jill. There were areas where I said, I think you're pouring fuel on the fire. I think you should do this and do that and not go after legal actions or anything like that. But you know what? This is a free country and they get to make their choices. I don't have to agree with that. So they made their choice. And I didn't agree with it, and that's okay. But I'm still going to love them. I'm still going to respect them and honor them for their freedom to choose what they choose in their life. And so we need to get back to those foundational morals that have us become good friends and neighbors again. Where I see people out there that are slamming their own parents, because they got the vax or didn't get the vax or whatever it is. And you are literally taking the bait. That is what they want, is for people to be so caught up in the ideological propaganda that they're willing to cut ties with family over it. Yeah. And that's one thing I love about particularly my wife's family, who, we moved her parents and her sisters all here across the street and down the street, because they're Filipino. And there's something in that culture that has maintained that sense of loyalty. I have to say, I love the Filipino people. And her parents are fully vaxxed and boosted. And they hear our conversations around the table all day long. They don't agree with them, but there's no problem. And we get to hear their side of it. And we just realize that we disagree. And we're concerned about the future of their health because of what the choices they made. So we'll always be concerned with that. But we're not going to disrespect them, because they're in their 70s and 80s and they get to choose their life. They get to choose. They get to make their own mistakes. And that's how we learn. So it's just very, very imperative that before we make any moves and we exercise this knee-jerk reaction of just acting against someone because we've heard a couple of people say bad things, stop and consider what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that, and know that We are literally serving one of the most nefarious agendas, which is divide and conquer. When we do that, we're the ones responsible for that. If there's anything that hopefully the last few years have taught us, is that we have the power to allow this shit to happen. And so we have the power to stop this shit by being accountable for our actions and knowing that we enabled all of this. Yes, there is a very elite small group of people that are literally wanting to enslave us and reduce the population and make us sick and kill us and everything you can imagine. That's real. But the rest of it is literally enabled by the people. We do it to each other. We're the ones who masked our children and let them be social distance in little plastic cages in their classroom. We didn't go in front of those schools. Very few parents did. The ones that did are heroes that went up against the school board and said, hell no, you will not torment my child this way. The rest of them just went, well, I have to work and I don't have time to homeschool, and okay. Hell no, never allow that stuff to happen in your family and with your loved ones. That's what we have to say, like grow a pair and step up and stop bending to this illogical, harmful ideologies.
Beautifully
Mikki,
said.
in your film, you use the metaphor of bees spreading pollen,
Yes.
Which I thought was really effective. And one of the beauties of that is that it's non-judgmental.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, the metaphor that I found there was just simply, bees pollinate from one flower to the next. They carry things. And so we do that too. And we can spread poison around, or we can spread seeds that bloom life. It's up to us.
And one thing you said about, and I think it's the kind of the big important takeaway from all of this, is discerning whether or not someone's an FBI paid agitator, whether it's just their own ego, whether it's jealousy, paranoia, whatever. There's one way you can, I think, remove several of those. And it's if you talk to them. That kind of cuts out two of them, jealousy and paranoia. And they cut out whatever they're doing that's hurting the movement. Again, sorry, Joe. In terms of FBI, COINTEL, whatever you want to call it, you can look at it, and I barely understand sports, so bear with me. But think of like football. Think of Tom Brady. Take the snap. You take a couple steps back. If you're just examining it, you're going, oh, that guy's working for the other team. He's going backwards. Okay, for a couple steps, he's going backwards. But what does he do overall? Oh, he then threw it for 15 yards, but he took 5 steps back. They moved 10 yards forward. That's a 10-yard gain. That's a good guy. That's how I look at things. And Mikki, you said that. What is the big picture? Sure, you can have a pass here or a pass there or whatever. What is the big picture? Are they moving it forward? Are they damaging the evil people at the top? If that's the case, they're moving the ball forward. Shut up. Take the gain. Go win.
I have a quick story I'll share here. So
go for it.
A big part of the Standing Rock situation that happened back in 2016, and we had taken a bunch of filmmakers out there. And at the time, I was a environmentalist, a very poorly educated environmentalist, I must say, because I've woken up to a lot of the realities of what we were really fighting for and against at that point. But yet, I would still do everything I can to protect cultures like the Lakota people and the great people that I've become friends with that are sometimes truly marginalized, and sometimes our government runs over them and use them as test subjects and all of that. This is a real thing that happens. And so I don't regret at all my fight against DAPL, which is Dakota Access Pipeline. But quick story, we were out there in whatever it was, 20 degrees below weather for months. I ended up working with that project for 2.5 years. And we were at the casino hotel room with a bunch of the filmmakers and people that I brought out, so we could start capturing the truth, because of course the media was not allowing that to happen. And so we were in a meeting and of what our next steps would be and what we would do the next day. And there was a young man sitting on the edge of the bed, and as a few kind of private strategic things were spoken, he started looking at his phone and texting real quickly. And then he looked kind of distraught. I didn't notice it at the time, but then suddenly he got up and left the room, and everyone went, "Did you see that? Did you see what Danny just did? I knew it. I told you, man, this guy is controlled opposition. I'm telling you right now, the moment we said this, he started sending the text. He got up, he ran out of the room, and so I thought, oh, I've been here before. I'm the oldest one in the room. Let me find out right now. Let me squash this. So I got up, I ran. Before I got to the elevator, I caught him. I said, hey, Danny, come here. I said, so what's going on right now? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, why'd you leave the room? Because there's some people back there that are feeling pretty suspicious about your actions and your attitude during the meeting. You didn't seem real present. And when we were smiling and celebrating, you weren't. Like what's going on? And he shows me his phone. He said, I just found out that my girlfriend's back at home cheating with my best friend. And I said, you just about got crucified for that. So you need to go in and explain to them what was really going on for you. But that's a perfect example of how quick, had I not traced him down, I tell you, that young man would have been ousted from the tribe and may have been completely, just decimated character-wise for the rest of his life by everyone believing that he was some kind of paid infiltrator from Dakota Access Pipeline. But it's those little moments that trigger the idea, and then it starts to spread. Did you hear what Danny did last night? No, I did. I knew it. I felt something weird about him. Yeah. Do you know his dad was military? And it starts to go like that, and so, or I had a great uncle who was part of the oil company, and they start to do this stuff and build a whole case against an innocent person. And that's what we have to just stop, or at least slow down, because these things are possible. To say that seemed odd, but let's go talk to him and find out what's going on and confront him. And instead of just starting a rumor.
Yeah. Man.
Can I add another angle to this? Yeah. And I don't want to suck up too much time. We have an issue going on right now as we emerge from the darkness of what's been done to us. There's no question, I don't think any of us would debate that the world, in the Western world, has been subjected to the most amazing, coordinated, harmonized propaganda campaign probably in the history of the West over the last 3 years. And I was recently listening to a 1962 discussion from Huxley. Mikki, this is the kind of thing you love. That was on the After School channel that does those great illustrations. And Huxley made the point that 20% of the population, this is 62 he's talking about, is easily hypnotized. 20% is completely resistant to hypnosis, and the other 60 are kind of on a continuum in between those two. And in his perspective, this is actually a good thing for society. 60 mix persisted through a lot of different situations, and the 20% of the population likewise was really susceptible to propaganda, and 60% was fairly susceptible to government propaganda, and about 20% was completely resistant. So these are the ones that in the current situation are the awake or the awoken, is those that are resistant to propaganda or hypnosis. And the 60% are the persuadable middle. Here's the thing. That 60% subjected to military-grade psyops propaganda now for 3 years has essentially been hypnotized, and they have said and done some really ugly things, as has the 20% that are completely in the narrative and completely resistant to anybody trying to change their minds. And if we bring hate to our transactions with that 60% of this persuadable middle, we can never bring them over to our side, and we can never get the majority that we need if we want to change governmental policy. And the only way that we're going to be able to help those people wake up is if we approach them with open hearts. If we approach them with hate and anger, they will immediately reject anything we say, and we will be completely unsuccessful in trying to help them to wake up to what's been done to them.
Mhm.
And this is something that a lot of people find really hard to swallow. It is, in a sense, the fundamental message in the Christian teaching to turn the other cheek.
Mhm.
But in the critic, this is sometimes weaponized against me as yet more evidence that I'm controlled opposition, because I'm advising that we should approach people with an open heart. And I'm absolutely not saying we should forgive Rochelle Walensky, Tony Fauci, Deborah Birx, or the multitude that have lied to us and been essentially the puppet masters here. But for the people in our lives, your mother, your aunt, the poor soul in the grocery line that's still wearing a face nozzle, approaching them with anger and hate will never win them over, will never allow us to succeed. We have to somehow, those of us that are awake, swallow it. And even though we may still be burning inside, don't direct that at the average person in our lives, because we're never going to be able to bring them unless we approach them with an open heart and an open mind.
I love that. I love that. I appreciate that. Beautifully said. Another quick story. Christmas last year, I live in Texas, where we rarely see a mask unless you go to downtown. And I was Christmas Eve going through a mall, and I think it's one of the new variants was, making its rounds on the news. And I was just amazed at how many people were wearing a mask. And I was going up an escalator, and a father was coming down holding a baby, maybe a year old, with a mask. And I just had a real quick, like, I wanted to jump over the other side of the elevator and take that baby and just, you don't deserve this child because and I just had this. Now, I believe that the human body is a receiver and broadcaster of what I call infinite intelligence. People call it God, whatever you want to call it. That we're always able to receive. What informs all of nature and the birds? How do birds fly? Thousand birds make one body, and they turn on a dime together as if they're all being informed by one source. How does that happen? I believe that our bodies receive and broadcast. And so I always ask myself, what am I broadcasting in this moment? And in that moment, I asked that question because I was just filled with rage. And I thought, so here I am. I needed to take responsibility for what my body is broadcasting, because when we all do that, like the cells in our bodies, every cell in your body is lit up with the support of your life, then you're healthy. If the cells are questioning what their job is and what they do, they clump together. We've seen the high-powered microscopes that can read this stuff. They don't move as much. They don't flow in your bloodstream. And so I equate each body on this planet as being a cell in the body of life, right? And so I had to ask myself, what am I projecting right now? What am I broadcasting right now? It's not good. And so I have to be responsible for what I'm broadcasting, knowing that there's a ripple effect. And if you're powerful enough of a broadcaster, no matter how many watts you put out, you can affect a lot of people around you. And so I stopped, I got to the top of the escalator, and I just asked myself, I asked the infinite intelligence, God, I said, help me with this one. Because I don't want to be broadcasting this in this mall right here on Christmas, day before Christmas. This is not healthy. And now I'm responsible for the very thing that I want to dissolve in the world. And the answer that I got back was amazing. It said, that man is making the ultimate sacrifice to wake everyone else up. And when I looked at it from that perspective, and I thought, wow, well, poor child, that they have to unwittingly be the sacrifice, but this person somehow is playing a role in this incredible chess game we call life to sacrifice the oxygen that is needed for that developing, little brain of his beautiful little child, is somehow so bought into this, to be so paranoid that he would put a mask on a 1-year-old infant to wake the rest of us up. That new perspective of just that some people play a part so that the rest of us can see the reflection of that and know what not to do, change the way that I see the people that I once just discarded as being stupid. Now I literally walk by like I do a service person or a police officer and say, thank you for your service, because I know what's really happening there if we're able to observe it from a higher perspective.
Yeah, safety guidelines are written in blood. right? Someone paid for it. I always, I always bring this up is I lost a sibling to suicide in 2014. But I have a podcast, 15,000 people listen. And just the other day I had on some veterans that run this, nonprofit, suicide prevention for veterans with PTSD. I would have never had them on here had I not. I would have been like, oh, that's cool, gone about it. I would never do that. So you do have to, what is the purpose of it? What is the sacrifice? And to what Dr. Malone said about that 60% in the middle, if you attack them and belittle them, you're just doing the work of the people at top. You're making them hate you now. You don't go to your grandparents and go, you idiot, you smoke cigarettes. You don't yell at your dad and go, you have asbestos in you. If some kid in 50 years looks at me and goes like, oh, like you're a victim of what, we'll find out Wi-Fi gives you cancer or something, or you're full of microplastics, I'll be like, I didn't know. What do I know? And now instead of being resistant to change, I'm just gonna just screw this kid, right? I'm not gonna. So that's another thing is it's not just like a nice feel good thing. It's also tactically how you fight this. You don't go, you idiot. I mean, yeah, you don't. I mean, yeah, just open your heart and be like, yeah, man, I'm an idiot too. Like I get it. I get it. But you don't yell at someone for that. It's just that's infantile, and it's also disadvantageous to the movement. Again, apologize for that, but yeah, I think that's the real takeaway of all of it is the person doing positive work, are they moving the ball down the field, and are we attacking someone out of our own ego? Or are we opening our heart and being like, yeah, that person is a victim of military grade propaganda? Just
exactly.
Yeah. 20 plus years ago, I stood on the rubble of the World Trade Center. This is an event that changed my life, particularly changed my career. I was in New York to work out a distribution deal for my first movie. And it just so happened that that's when the World Trade Center was attacked. And it's just kind of in my system to run in the opposite direction. When the people are running away, I tend to run into the trouble. And so I did that. And I ended up doing search and rescue for 3 days. But it was about day 2 that we were ordered to actually take a nap because the people running it knew that, no one had slept and that we were going to be a danger to everyone around us if we didn't get some kind of rest. And so I tried to take a nap, and I had a little flashback of the first body that we had found, which was crushed under a fire truck. And I had this very lucid experience that happened. And I there was no way that I could sleep. And I sat up and I rubbed my eyes, and then I had this voice that came through, and it said, "This could be your Vietnam," and it was just so vivid. I just thought, or what? What? Come on.
Spit it out.
Tune the dial, finish your statement. What happened there? Where'd the signal go? But the aura was up to me to find. And so I suited back up and I went back out onto the rubble. And I had this really profound awakening that took place because I was shown what this fable of the crossroads of life really means. Like there's a choice point. You get to choose. And so I was left with this choice of, I realized, okay, my experience of Vietnam vets was that they're the men that I see on the corner with a sign that says, "Help me." And I could choose to allow this experience to take me down mentally such that I become one of those men on the corner with a sign that says, "Please help me." Or I realized what that or meant. I get to choose. And in that moment, I literally chose gratitude. I got to be in a spot, standing on the very spot where the entire world was focused. I felt suddenly this massive world was so small. I could feel the presence of the attention of 7 billion people looking at one spot on the planet. And I was there in the mecca of it. And suddenly this idea of we are one became real for me. And I made a decision at that point. This will not take me down. This will not ruin my health, because we were also told what we were breathing. We knew that. And I know the power of placebo. I know the power of the mind. So I said, if I go with that, It will take me down, but I would choose not to. And I had one lung infection 10 years later, nothing ever since. Some people that I was with in that moment are no longer with us. And some are in very bad shape. I just got someone that I was with reached out to me a month ago saying they're just now experiencing some issues and they're going to file a lawsuit and wanted to know if I want to be part of it. I said, no, I don't want to buy into that at all because I'm fine, I'm healthy, and this thing was a catalyst for the work that I'm doing now. Because at the crossroads, I could have sold my soul to the devil, or I could have walked on and stayed on my path, and that's what I chose. And so this COVID situation, we're in the same choice point. Are we going to, it's wonderful that, trust for our government is at 20-some% and trust for our media is at 20-some%. These are all wonderful things to lose trust in that authoritative, those bodies. But to lose trust in humanity, to lose trust in the, the white coats posers like Dr. Fauci, absolutely wonderful. But to not give up on the cells within the human organism, because it is what gives all of us life. We are at a choice point of how are we going to grow from the torment and the tyranny that we've all endured for the past several years? Are we going to let this make us bitter, angry, distrustful loners in the world, depressed and full of anxiety? If so, they win. That's what Big Pharma wants, because then you're going to need synthetic remedies to survive. Or are we going to let this thing elevate us to understanding how precious every damn breath is? How precious our family is, our freedoms are, our relationships are, and this country is. It's our choice.
Beautifully said. And in terms of losing trust, you should lose trust. And that's also why you should buy Dr. Malone's book, Lies My Government Told Me. And everyone, you just had a fast one pulled on you. This has been a 56-minute infomercial. Don't trust us. We are paid agitators for big publishing. I thought it'd be so funny right now if all of our backgrounds changed. Like they're all green screens, and it's just the big seal of the CIA and their marble foyer, and we're all sitting in there like looking around, like, oh shit, like that would be the best thing. That would break some brains. But Dr. Malone, Mr. Mikki Willis, thank you so much, gentlemen. This was a beautiful episode. I will put, obviously, the link to your book, Dr. Malone, Twitter, Getter, Substack, and Mikki, I will put the video to Our Birthright, and as well as anything else you want in the description, please text to me. I'll just put it in there.
Well, you have to provide a pointer to his Plandemic website too, of course.
Yeah. Give me all the goodies, and I'll put them in the description.
Plandemicseries.com. Thank you.
Plandemicseries.com. And I thought it was funny. I was planning that line about buy the book, and I was like, this is going to be funny, nice closer. And then the screen over your shoulder turned off right when I opened my mouth. And that really was, now I'm getting a little conspiracy theory. Like, what the hell is going on? And I'm
going to say that no book authors ever say, do not buy my book.
Don't buy the book. Don't ever buy the book.
Because it's free. Go to plandemicseries.com and download it for free.
Big flex. Yeah. And anyone out there, if you want to start some conspiracies that I'm a paid agitator or that I am controlled opposition, I welcome it. Anything to get this podcast some traction and more subscribers. CIA, DIA, whatever you want, make it up. You have free reign with it. I can be Illuminati, I can be Klaus Schwab, whatever you need. Get those going about me. Not Dr. Malone, not Mikki, but get them going about me. Anything to get these numbers up, I'm fine with. Any tactic. Unrestricted warfare. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
If anyone's controlled opposition, it's someone with a baby face like yours.
Oh, you. It would be me, right? White guy, blue eyes, American flag cross around his neck. Who is this guy saying, hey, guys, don't look under the cover. Don't look any deeper than it is me, right? Yeah, no, it's not me. I wish it was me, because that would imply that I'm so much more important than I am. And my ego would love that. But instead, I'm in a room by myself, screaming at a camera, trying to stay relevant. So,
gentlemen, you're a great podcaster. I've enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate that. Dr. Malone's one-upping me with, I don't know what kind of microphone that is, but it looks like something from Area 51. He's totally flexing on me, and he's got a new camera, so I got to bump up my game. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and patience. Mikki, please text me the links to Plandemic and any social media. I'll put that in the description. Dr. Malone, thank you. And of course, the unsung hero, Miss Dr. Glasspool, Jill Malone. I butchered that. Thank you for your patience for our movements. Thank you so much.
Everybody, thank you for watching.
Thank you so much, everybody.